started to work my problems out with you. I would bring my emotions, I would bring my fears, I would bring my insecurities to my wife. And most men think, oh, well, that's a good thing to have that open line of communication. No, dummy. That's why your relationship is where it is right now. It's not your fault. I'm saying, wake up, men. Men are really focused on the results and not the process.
The feeling that you have for something is an indicator for how you're going to be. So take that feeling and think about, there's only two things it's going to come from, God or the enemy. So which one are you going to listen to?
50% of people are getting divorced. You can guess that at least 50% of marriages that are hearing this right now are having to make a hard no. But I also believe that this will save so many men, so many problems in their marriage because they want intimacy and they want love and they want connection with their wife. But ultimately,
what's up, friends? Today's episode of the Steve Weatherford Show is brought to you by Just Meats. I didn't say carbs, Just Meats. And you're wondering to yourself, well, what is Just Meats? Well, it's a meal delivery that comes straight to your front door, all natural, grass-fed, grass-finished. My family loves it, and it's become a part of our weekly dinner that one of the kids gets to choose. Are we doing beef? Are we doing chicken? Are we doing pork? And so we just love it because it makes things easy. It feeds my family. It feeds me, and I want it to feed you. So if you use code STEVE15, go to justmeats.com, and you'll save a lot of money. Enjoy the show.
Arise, champion! This is the world famous Steve Weatherford Show, where each week we bring you stories, messages, and guests to create massive breakthroughs in your life. Somebody say greatness! This show has been strategically designed to accelerate you. Call a friend and tell them Steve Weatherford is on.
welcome to the Steve Weatherford Show. You're getting a little bit of a snapshot at what life is really like. And I would say in the last 12 months, maybe it's been 14 months, my wife and I have really utilized a lot more of what God has given us to effectively grow the kingdom. And I don't think I know I've been able to lead us better to do that because I've been leading myself well. And before I could lead myself well, you and I, we dealt with a lot of friction, a lot of misalignment, a lot of fights. And I would love to celebrate the growth that we've had, but that growth has come because we've had mentorships, because we've had great relationships, because at least one of us inside of the marriage has decided we're never going to quit. We've never decided to both quit at the same time, and I believe that that's the key. So one of the things that we've done in this last year that has really required you to pay a price is we've been doing all of the men's leadership, the men's ministry, 5:30 a.m. men's prayers at our house, and you and the kids have had to pay a price of like not having your privacy, not having your full house to yourself. So one of the things that I want to do is we've gotten a lot of DMs, and you've gotten an opportunity to talk to a lot of the men that come to my house. And so I want to go through some of the questions that we have in the DMs, and instead of people in the interwebs hearing it from me, because a lot of these messages we get quite a bit, I would love for them to be able to hear from you, because you don't come on the podcast very often because our family is very, very young. We have 16, 14, 11, almost 9, 6, and almost 3. So very busy age. We've got volleyball players, basketball players, swimmers, gymnasts,
Horse riders. And King will be something someday.
And King is going to be something of athletic beauty. So they're into a whole lot of different things, which makes it very difficult because if they all do one sport, you just drop them all off at volleyball. But that's not the case. We have a lot of variety in our home. So, babe, not only do I value your opinion and your voice, there's a ton of people that listen to this podcast that wait until you come back on, especially a lot of the wives. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you is how this is coming from. I don't know who it's coming from, but it says, how do I get my family involved in creating core values, and why is it important?
Okay. So I think to be able to say core values are kind of the standards that you set. Like if we're going to do something, we're going to do it this way. And a lot of times you don't want it to be subjective. You want to be able to like quantify it and have
like a measurable standard.
Yes, because otherwise what might be that to me is going to be different than you. So if you have 6 kids, every person thinks this is the best I can do. Well, it might not be the best I think you can do. And so being able to quantify it. And so I think to get them involved and enrolled is to see what's important to them. And I think a lot of issues with leadership and parenting is, 1, parents just let the kids do whatever they want. Or 2, the parents almost kind of say, you're just going to do what I want. And so for me to get them really enrolled in core values, it's things that, 1, they really are kind of already good at, and 2, things that maybe they struggle with. Hear them, talk to them, and also know core values are evolving, so they might change with ages and times and different things. But you can go back to and hold your child. Like, okay, did you do this in excellence? No. Okay, so you don't have to yell. You don't have to fight them. It allows you to set a standard that you can hold them accountable to.
That's good. So what I'm hearing you say is, ask your family, if you want to get your family involved in creating core values, ask them good questions and find out what's important to them. And then the second thing that I'm hearing you say is example those, right? Because one thing, and I'll just share with you all, if I can kind of compliment onto what Laura just said, when we were creating our family core values initially, I was like, okay, these are our family core values, because I was getting coached and I was getting mentored by somebody that was helping me to create my own personal core values. And I realized we don't have family core values. And so like in my zeal and excitement of like this whole new transformation and lifestyle that I'm going to live, I really feel like I forced our family core values upon you. And one of the things that we had a rub on is, after a few months of her agreeing to the core values, she sat down and she said to me, like, these are your core values. These are not our core values. And so one of the mistakes that I made when I began to lead myself and my family better is I really forced it upon my family instead of doing what Laura is saying right now, like, ask really good questions and find out what's important to your mate. And then once you figure out what's important to your mate, begin to have that discussion with your family and say, this is what's important to us, and here are the reasons why. And so it's really about asking good questions, figuring out what's important, and then enrolling the other members in your family in why is it important. Did I miss anything? Okay, good. The second question that I have is, how do I restore my relationship with my wife after I have not led our family well in the past? So what I'm hearing you say is, I don't have a great track record of leading my family. How do they rebound from that?
Yeah, but this is something we get asked a lot, like, what do I do? What can I say? And I think people get so caught up in that they, for me, really forget it's like the works in the Bible. The works don't matter. It's how you are. It's how you show up. So be different. It's not just doing something different. It's not just saying something different. Your whole being, be more peaceful, be more patient, and show up that way regardless of how she shows up.
I think what I'm hearing you say is, men are really focused on the results,
yes,
and not the process.
Correct.
And for me, I absolutely...
They're also very impatient with it.
I so resonate with this question of like, how do I restore my relationship? Because one of the things that I realized when I had like my God moment and I wanted to completely change is, I realized that I had been giving you the peanuts and the kids the peanuts, and my goals and my dreams and other relationships were actually getting the priority. And then if I had enough, you would get some. And so I really resonate with the question of like, how do you restore it? And I would say, if I can add something on to what you said, is decide who you are and pre-decide that's how you're going to be with your significant other, regardless of how she is, right? For me, I had to choose integrity, honor, and accountability. And so as I began to walk out this new version of myself with my wife, it was over 2 years before I believed that you really agreed with my transformation.
So there's many different ways people have said this to us throughout our time being married. There's been like think, be, do. And then there's been like be, do, have. Different people have said it different ways, but I think the first one is take every thought captive, but not just a thought. Like the feeling that you have for something is an indicator for how you're going to be. Mm-hmm. So take that feeling and think about, there's only two things it's going to come from, God or the enemy. So which one are you going to listen to? Because they're both going to talk to you. So take the feeling that you have, think about it. Who am I listening to? And then you can be what God calls you to be. Therefore, you're going to do what he calls you to do, and you're going to have the blessings he's given you.
I feel like I've got one more thing for that second question, then we'll go to the last question. And this is a mistake that I've made. And I want everybody that sent me this message, I want all you guys to, and also wives to hear this, but I also believe that this will save so many men so many problems in their marriage because they want intimacy and they want love and they want connection with their wife. But ultimately, men want one thing and women want one thing. Men want to be respected and women want security. And this is the mistake that I made, especially after I retired from the NFL, because I had like a built-in 53 friends, right? And so after I left the NFL and I went into entrepreneurship, I began to handle a lot of my issues on my own, and I began to operate in a silo. And so as I began to hit different adversities, because I didn't have a coach or I didn't have teammates like I used to, I started to work my problems out with you. I would bring my emotions, I would bring my fears, I would bring my insecurities to my wife. And most men think, oh, well, that's a good thing to have that open line of communication. No, dummy. No, dummy. That's why your relationship is where it is right now. It's not your fault. So when I call you a dummy, it's not because I'm declaring that over you. I'm saying, wake up, men. Because scripture says, Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And that is literally a command from God to work your issues out among other men, right? Lead yourself well and use your community to do so. And then you bring those more polished feelings to your wife, because your wife wants you to be a passionate leader. Your wife doesn't want you to be an emotional one. And so if you go to your wife emotionally, you know what she's going to do? She'll be like, I don't care how much money this guy makes. Like, he's insecure. He's scared. And so it wasn't until I got a mentor and I had to pay a great deal of money to do it, at least in my mind this is 5 years ago. I thought it was crazy to pay $1,500 for 1 hour of like strategy coaching with a leadership guy. But we decided to do it. And it wasn't until then that he explained to me, he's like, well, I'm not a marriage coach, but I'll tell you what's wrong with your marriage right now. He said, you're working your issues out with the wrong person, and that's why she doesn't feel secure in who you are. So you can make another $1 million this year, Steve, but until you learn a new lifestyle of working your things out with the brotherhood before you go and work things out with your wife, you're going to continue to be on this hamster wheel of wanting respect and her feeling insecure, because it's hard for her to respect me if she's feeling insecure. So I wanted to add that because I feel like so many men encounter that and they think it's a good thing that they share their feelings with their wife. It's not. The third question.
I'm going to challenge you on that.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not that I don't think that you can. I think that you have to understand where you are. I actually think God created a woman, because that's what he created first. He didn't create another man for Adam. He created his wife. And there was a reason for that. But I believe that until you're emotionally healthy, you can't be spiritually mature. Therefore, you're not going to be able to lead yourself well. So that's what I would only challenge you. Like, I do think there comes a time where it's good to do that, but if you're not in that place, then you consistently show up unhealthy.
I would agree with you, but man, if you're like really like, I don't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
I would say that when you go to the brotherhood doesn't solve it for you. But in scripture, it says that, and this would just be one iteration, is like, confess your sins one to another and pray for each other and you'll be healed. Right? So why would I bring my problems to my wife when I can bring it to the brotherhood and either have it be healed and present a strong prophet, priest, king, and warrior to my wife? But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But just for time's sake, I want to go to this third question. And this third question says, I want to invest in a coaching program to help me transform, but I'm having a hard time getting my wife on board to invest in it. We get this one quite a bit as well, because we've really gone all in on not just the launching pad, but the 12 weeks of reconditioning discipleship that follows it, called the Freedom Process. So Babe, what would you say to the men that are having trouble enrolling their family or their wives into making an investment so they can transform the way that we've transformed through coaching?
I think, one, don't make it her sacrifice. I don't know where, I mean, everyone's in different places financially, but regardless of where you are, I mean, spending money on something that maybe she doesn't understand or she doesn't believe is going to work because you've tried this, that, and the other to quote unquote fix a problem. She may not even think it's going to work. Mm-hmm. So
she probably won't.
Yeah, she probably won't think it's going to work. And so then it's just like more money. But
when I came to you and I said, hey, I'm going to make this investment. But when I came to you and I said, I'm going to make this investment, I followed it up with, I'm going to do whatever it needs to be done in order to pay for this, or I'll make a lifestyle change.
Yes. And that's what I was going to say. Like, if you are at a place where you're like, kind of like, I have to do something and I know this, then like
something's got to shift it.
Something's got to shift. Even if she might not even know where you are, but I know, like, you might know inwardly, yes, like, I need to do this, and be as open as you can. Like, I need to do this. I want to be better. Start with like, even where you're not. I know it's very hard for women and men to just be like, man, I know I'm not being the husband I should be. I know I'm not being the father I should be. I have conviction. Like, I feel convicted that I'm not being this, but I don't know where to start. Like, I'm going to church, I'm doing these things, but like, I still don't I don't know where to start. I need help, and I'm willing to do what it takes. So tell me what I need to do. And I think if you go into that way, more like, I just want to be better for you, and it's hard to not, especially if you're saying like, I'm willing to take the hit financially. Like, I'll figure it out. I'll make more money, or I'll be the one to step back. I'll figure it out. Then she doesn't really have to sacrifice much.
I knew one way not to approach you, to ask you to spend 15, because that was just for one coach, because I also had a business coach. This is for like a leadership legacy coaching, and it was for 1 hour of coaching. The other one that I did was like a mastermind that was a year-long program. But when I approached her for this, my wife is a very unique person where...
Is that a nice way of saying it?
Well, I feel like I'm unique too. Like, there's certain things about me that are just like, when you boil it down, it's just, I'm weird.
Right.
You know, but there's things about you that are that way as well. And one of the weird things, two weird things about her, like when she gets food on a plate, she never wants it to touch. If any of the food touches, she won't eat it. That's one weird thing. And the other weird thing is, my wife, and I think most wives are this way, but my wife really doesn't like to be told what to do.
No.
And so if I would have come up to you and I would have said, this is what I'm going to do and this is what you're going to do, I would have just been like, your default is like, no. And so I had to be, just wisdom for men, I had to be very tactful. Timing was important. And also, like, I did what you said. Like, I know I'm not leading myself well. Like, you and I both know that every once in a while, like, I break down and I'm eating Percocets because I'm dealing with some stuff inside, and I need somebody to walk me through a process. And I think when I approached you that way, I'd have to say, I mean, you said yes, but it wasn't like financially we were in a place where we're like, oh yeah, that's a totally great investment, because you'd never heard of anybody making an investment for coaching the way that I was.
No, but I knew that we couldn't go the way we were, or we wouldn't be together.
Yeah. So it was almost kind of like we can't afford not to do it.
I mean, for us, that's how it was. I'm hoping most people don't feel that way.
But the struggle is real. If 50% of people are getting divorced, you can guess that at least 50% of marriages that are hearing this right now, or have been to that place where they're having to make a hard no.
Yeah, I think that ultimately, to simplify it, it takes time for consistency, and we're all human, so our human nature and defaults will unfortunately always come out until we die. Like, they will. It's a foregone conclusion. However, we don't have to sit in it very long, and you can make a change with how you talk to someone immediately. Like, that conversation could be the first time you show up different for her.
Yeah.
So,
it's about what I'm hearing you say is it's a whole lot more about the human being that you are representing than the human doing, because men get lost a lot in the doing because we're hunters.
Well, they also get lost in her doing.
Tell me more about that.
We get so focused on what they are doing or not doing for us. I mean, that was our biggest issue. You would listen to the enemy of she's not doing this, therefore she doesn't feel this. And it wasn't even accurate. It was just like I was doing what I felt like I had to do to quote unquote survive.
Yeah.
And I might not have like done everything the way you wanted, but like I was trying my best. Yeah. And so if you focus on your reaction to things versus her doing or your doing, then you have a lot less friction.
Yeah, that's good. Well, my wife has to leave the studio right now to go pick up our 6-year-old Golden Grace from school. But thank you, because I know that we're taking a trip tomorrow morning to North Carolina to go spend time with some of our favorite people. So you have a lot of things that you needed to get done today. And thank you for dropping everything to come up here, because these DMs we get these a lot. And so I think this is really going to serve men on how to get their family off of the fence, because maybe they haven't built up enough trust or built up enough results. But what I'm hearing you say is if they show up differently and they have a different presence that creates a different atmosphere, that's the first step. And be that consistently enough that there will be a gap, and they'll start to ask questions about how can I get more or be more of what you're doing.
Yes.
All right, friends. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you give us a thumbs up, hit the bell so the notification goes off, because we release a podcast every Wednesday. And the reason that we do this, man, is we want to honor you, we want to encourage you, and we want to empower you to live your greatest life to give Jesus Christ all of the glory. We'll see you guys next week.
This week's episode is brought to you by OxFit XS1. What's an XS1? It's without a doubt the most advanced and sophisticated exercise platform that I've ever seen. I actually have this exact unit in my home. The OxFit XS1 blows my mind because of the capability and the durability. This is an at-home fitness platform that is industrial enough for me to max out my squat, my bench, and my deadlift with a real barbell in my hands. And it also has radical features like a rower, a ski erg, and live fitness classes on a massive 3-foot touchscreen display. For more information, go to oxfit.com. And thanks for listening to the Steve Weatherford Show.